welcome on into the Falls Count Anywhere podcast. I am Charlie Turner along with Chris DiCarlo and John Restino. Chris, welcome back. We are now back at full force this week. Gentlemen, how's it going? How's it going today?
Good, thank you. Yes, had to take care of some family business at the last minute there, so I appreciate you guys taking over with Mr. Lano there.
Yeah, man. We tried to hold it down, but we were a little rusty with some of our wrestling history there. So you were definitely missed, Chris. So welcome back, buddy. And we're going to be talking some classic wrestling today, guys. And we have a great guest to be able to do that with. Now, when you were a kid back in the day, back in the 80s, the 90s even, and you went to the supermarket and your parents were shopping and you went to the magazine rack, chances are you saw a magazine that this man had a hand in, and a major hand at that. We're talking Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Pro Wrestling, all these other wrestling magazines that spawned from Pro Wrestling Illustrated as well. That was on that magazine rack. Our guest today had a huge hand in that. He is the legendary contributor to those magazines. He is Mr. Craig Peters. Craig, thank you so much for joining us on the Falls Count Anywhere podcast. How's it going today, sir?
Oh, my pleasure. Nice to see you guys. Always happy to talk about the grand old days of wrestling magazines.
Yes, sir. And like I said, as kids, going to that magazine rack, and then back then before the internet and all that stuff, we didn't really know everybody that was everybody until you went to those rankings, and you looked at your Ric Flairs and your Dusty Rhodes, and it makes you wonder, oh, Ric Flair, where's he at these days? And he's wrestling in a certain territory and all that stuff. And I was able to, even as I dug out some archives here from my own collection, I went through all of these, and every time I went through them, I saw Craig Peters' name associated with it. And I was like, man, Craig had a huge hand in this. So Craig, I got to ask you first and foremost, as far as the start of your career, how did you get into the crazy wrestling business, and what was it about wrestling that pulled you in?
Oh boy, that's a great question. So, unlike Bill Apter, of course, who was the heart and soul of those magazines, or Stu Sachs, for another great example, who had a wrestling newsletter growing up, I was actually not a wrestling fan before I got into the wrestling magazines. I'd been to the matches a couple of times. My brother took me to Nassau Coliseum. I'm pretty sure Bruno was on the card. I mean, he was always on the card back then. I saw it on TV a few times, not just WWF then, but also Lucha Libre on, I think it was channel 47. I grew up in Long Island, so so way down the dial. So I was aware of wrestling, but I wasn't really a fan, so to say. So, make a very long story short, I got out of college. I was job hunting, sending my resume out everywhere. I knew I wanted to do something in media, something in writing, but I'm a young, dumb kid fresh out of college. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. So I sent my resume out everywhere. And there was an ad in Newsday, the Long Island newspaper, from something called London Publishing. I had no idea what it was. They were looking for a writer, sent them my resume. A little while later, I get a call from Peter King, who says, like your resume, I want you to come in and interview. We're hiring for a writer. I said, oh, that's great. What kind of magazines do you guys do? Well, we do pro wrestling and boxing. And my heart kind of fell. I was just like, because my interests were very much comic books. I was a huge comic book collector, comic book fan, music, that sort of thing. But not really a sports guy that much. And, when he said wrestling and boxing, I was like, let me think about it a little bit and I'll get back to you. Well, I had a couple of other interviews going on. Nothing came of it. And Peter called me back a couple of weeks later and said, hey, we still interested in you. Will you come in for an interview? I had nothing else going on. So I went in, went for the interview, looked around. It was an office of all young guys like myself. Bill was a couple of years older, but, he was still pretty young in 81. So, you had Stu Sachs and Peter King and myself and an art department of a couple of people, small office. I loved the atmosphere of it. And Peter explained that they were looking for someone to write 3 stories a day. That was the job. 3 1,000-word stories a day, 5 days a week. So like, all right, I'll give this a shot for a little while and see what happens. And a little while turned into 15 years. It was a great gig, and I absolutely loved it. And I think to the other part of your question, how did I sort of get into wrestling? Not knowing as much about it at first, I was able to make an analogy to comic books and comic book heroes. And the metaphor I used in my mind was, hey, these guys are flesh and blood comic book characters. And so that's kind of what I felt like I was doing. I was almost writing comic books, but instead of, the Fantastic Four or Spider-Man and the X-Men, I was writing about, Bob Backlund and Bruno Sammartino and the NWO and whatever else. It was a very sort of similar vibe. And I loved every minute of it. It was a great run.
Yeah, and it's so similar to the comic book world, and to me as a kid, especially with the WWF back in the golden era, some of those personalities. I mean, they had their own cartoons.
Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling. Remember that one?
Yeah, it was just, they were just larger than life characters. What was your first experience with meeting some of these guys in the business, some of the wrestlers, and what was that like?
Well, the very first time I went to live wrestling as part of the company, part of London Publishing, it was a TV taping in Allentown. Bill and I went to take photos, and I'll never forget this because this was sort of a great example to me of kind of pulling back the curtain on the world of pro wrestling. So WWF TV taping, Andre was there, which was pretty cool. And we walk in, and off to the side of the ring, Vince is interviewing Andre. And they had a platform set up on the floor with a notch cut out of the platform, right? And Vince stands in the notch because Vince is a tall guy, right? I don't know, what is he, like 6'2", 6'3" or something?
Yeah.
And Andre, of course. And so Andre's on the platform, which is maybe, I don't know, maybe a foot tall, a little less. So Andre's up here, Vince is down here in the hole of the platform. Vince is looking up like this, but it was great. Then I'm like seeing sort of they're not both standing on the floor. There's sort of this thing that's emphasizing Andre's height, and it was kind of cool. But that was my very first time actually going to the matches. And then, through the years, I kind of shadowed Bill, which was, I can't even, we could talk for hours about what that's like. Because, Bill Apter, of course, as much a part of the wrestling business as Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair or anybody else. And, if you walk into a dressing room, everybody's, Bill's like, hey, Bill, how are you? What's going on? How's Bill? And they, after they look at me, who's this guy with Bill? I kind of get in the skunk eye, side eye. And Bill says, nah, he's all right. He's cool. He's with me. I'm in. Right. I've got that. You get that stamp of approval from Bill. I'm accepted by all the guys. So as a result of that, I got to know the Road Warriors really well. Oh my goodness. All the Atlanta wrestlers, particularly at that time, WCW, Bill and I would go down and do the PWI press conferences. So I got to know all those guys, Cornette, Midnight Express, Rock and Roll. Jimmy Valiant was, became a pretty good friend. Actually, I did another podcast recently and had a similar question. I forgot to mention Jimmy Valiant, and I felt bad about it. Wow. And also Mr. Wrestling 2, another one who was, I don't know if a whole lot of people know this, but Mr. Wrestling 2, Johnny Walker, his wife Olivia made most of the robes that Flair wore or that Valentine wore. Beautiful. Anytime you see sort of these old school, ornate, really sort of beautiful robes, that's her work. She was fantastic with that.
Yeah, I was able to see the Ric Flair documentary, the Hidden Treasures WWE documentary, where he was looking for a couple of his older robes, and they had mentioned her. And
cool. Yeah, I haven't seen that. Yeah, I'm glad she got mentioned. She deserves credit for that. She was a wonderful person, and I think about her this time of year also pretty often because she loved Christmas. And I remember visiting their home, and they had their living room. It was like a 2-story home, but the living room had this open high ceiling. So you had a 15-foot ceiling, 20-foot ceiling, whatever it was. And they put like a 15-foot Christmas tree in their home. Wow. Beautiful. And as decorated as beautifully as one of Ric Flair's robes, right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of striking. Yeah, they were just great.
Yeah, in fact, Craig, we do a segment here on the show. I don't know if you checked out the show before you came on here, but we do chic tweets and classic clips from my collection. In fact, being our guest today, you're the first clip later
Oh
on.
no.
And we got you speaking of those press conferences, yes, from 1983 with Paul Ellering and all that. And,
That's one of my favorites. Very
yes,
cool.
and King Kong Bundy, and then so yeah, that's
Ellery
where
was
I remember
tremendous. He
you
was
from.
one of my favorite interviews. I love that. I love the character he was doing. He was great. He was great with words. I mean, he just would, come up with. He was fun to write for the magazines too. He would come up with phrases like, the Road Warriors and the Smorgasbord of Violence, stuff like that. It was terrific.
Yeah,
A very nice guy too. Very nice guy.
I met Mr. Apter after in a WCW event here in Buffalo, New York.
Uh-huh.
And back in 2000, I got a picture with him, and I sent the picture and I emailed him about the show. And I've been trying to get him on for a year, but
I'll needle him. I talk to him often. He's still one of my dearest friends. We live about 10 minutes from each other.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Very cool.
Get together once in a while. Yep.
Now, Craig, you mentioned when you mentioned Andre the Giant earlier. I love the stories about Andre. Did you interact with Andre directly, or was that the only kind of interaction you had with him, was seeing that interview with Vince, or did you get to meet him personally?
Yeah, no, I didn't really interact with him directly. Before the magazines got kicked out of WWF, photographing the matches, I would pass him backstage at the Garden occasionally, but I didn't really get to know him or interact with him that much.
Okay, because some of his drinking stories have been pretty legendary. Didn't know if you had any tucked away there. But
yeah,
the other thing I wanted to ask you about too was they're currently running the Tales from the Territories on Vice TV. Have you had a chance to check out any of that?
I did see one episode, and it was the Kaufman Lawler episode. So I suspect that's maybe the one you're about to ask.
Yeah, that was one of them. Yeah, that, and
Okay.
they talked about a little AWA as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been told I really need to watch them because they're excellent. And yeah, I've seen the Lawler Kaufman one because, I had some direct involvement in that.
Oh wow.
Oh, okay. How so? What?
So, well, I mean, if you saw it, Bill, of course, got the shout out. He set that up between Kaufman and Lawler. But
Yeah.
the night of the David Letterman episode, which was just absolutely legendary. Bill and I photographed the show, and I was actually in the hotel room the afternoon before the show with Lawler and Kaufman and Kaufman's manager and so forth, as they were kind of discussing what was going to happen. And I'm not letting anything out of the bag here. This has all been pretty well documented.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so we were in the hotel that afternoon. We photographed the incident. That night, I was sort of crouched down by one of the cameras taking pictures. Bill was taking color photography. I was taking black and white. And right after the show was over, Bill and I think we literally running through the streets of New York to get to, and I forget, I should know this by now. It was either the New York Post or the New York Daily News. I think it was the Post, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm about 85% sure. Because he had worked out a deal, back in those days, of course, there was no digital photography. It was all, real film. So we had to go somewhere to get the film developed. And so he knew somebody at the paper. We could use their dark room and develop the film that night. Wow. And sort of as payback for allowing us to do that, they got to use one of the photos on the front page of the paper the next day. And that was actually my photo of the Lawler Kaufman incident that was on the paper the next morning. Nice. But yeah, it was amazing to sort of be front and center for that whole thing.
Very
cool. I know, John, your wife Robin's a big Jerry Lawler fan. So how was Mr. Lawler in person, Craig?
Lawler was great, and we talked about comics earlier. I mean, there's a great sort of intersection of comics and wrestling, right? He's a tremendous artist, and very interested in comics as well. Just a very nice, down-to-earth guy, I always felt, and met him several times.
Very cool.
Question, Craig, a friend of ours that watches the show and a friend of ours personally from over the years brought to my attention last night, and I said I would ask you today.
Sure.
There was another writer he remembered from like around 1982, but then unfortunately died of cancer. He couldn't think of his name. Do
Dan
you know?
Shockett.
Okay.
Yep, Dan Shockett. He was, boy, I was talking to somebody pretty extensively about Dan Shockett recently. So Dan was, of course, the heel columnist. He was replaced by Eddie Elner. But Dan was an interesting guy. He would come in once a week to the offices. He would write his column, and he also wrote, if you remember, Sports Review Wrestling had the Apartment Wrestling articles. So if anyone listening to or watching this that is not aware of what Apartment Wrestling was, it was two young women in bikinis wrestling in an apartment.
All right.
And so basically what would happen is there was a photographer on the West Coast, Theo Errett, and he would send us photographs of two girls. You get 8 or 10 photos of, this particular session. And that's it, just the photos. So somebody had to string together a couple of thousand words to make a story, to give us an excuse to print these kind of
Somebody's
selection
got to
photos
do
in the
it,
magazine.
right?
And
I
Dan would
remember.
write those stories. He had a background writing for adult publications. So he would come in, he'd write the Apartment Wrestling stories. I think he, in addition to those, his column, he often wrote, I think, the Dream Matches and Wrestling Superstars for a while. I think that was him also. And he would write a couple of stories here and there as things needed to be filled. But had Dan lived, and he died young from testicular cancer, actually. It was quite a tragedy. He was very talented beyond the publications he wrote for, let's say. But I mean, he was starting his career freelancing for anybody and everybody that came along. He did a lot of work for Al Goldstein, pretty famous and notorious publisher. But I think had Dan lived, he would have elevated his career and become a very well-known writer in his own right and become mainstream. I firmly believe that. He was extremely talented and really interesting. We would lunchtime, we would hop in his car to go play paddleball down at the local park. And you never knew what was going to come up on the radio or the cassette in his car. It could be the rock and roll of the moment or Gilbert and Sullivan operettas, and anything in between. He just had interests, anything that interested him. It was across the board. It was very sad to see him go. But yeah. Dan Shockett, tremendous guy.
Yeah, but real quick, Craig. I know Charlie, you want to ask him something, but real quick, Craig and John,
go ahead,
I'm sure we want to bring this up to Craig.
Sure.
Being close to Canada here, Niagara Falls, New York, and then Niagara Falls, Ontario.
Right.
We go back to NWA's Maple Leaf Wrestling and Toronto's Maple Leaf Gardens and all that. So I'm sure, we'd like to know about that, right, John?
Yes.
Wow. I wish I had some stories about that. I never made it up to Canada in my tenure. So shame on me.
Oh, you're due, man. You got to head up this way, man. We're about 5 minutes from the bridge, so you're want to make.
Well, I mean, I've been there on personal. I've been to the falls and been to the Canadian side, but never for work, never for the wrestling magazine. So
no, the Maple Leaf Gardens is not even there anymore.
I know all those old arenas are falling by the wayside, and it's really sad. Like here, I live just outside of Philadelphia, and the Spectrum, which was a great old school building. That fell by the wayside years ago. I got to see the next to last event at the Spectrum was Bruce Springsteen. And so I was there for that. He put on a great show. But it's sort of sad to see these old buildings that have a lot of character going away.
It definitely is. The Buffalo Memorial Auditorium here, of course, which was torn down back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
I think I think I went there once or twice when I was in college for a couple of concerts.
Oh, very good.
One of my ticket stub collection.
One of my favorite childhood memories was going to that arena for whether it was Sabres playoffs or wrestling events, whatever the case.
Yeah.
Craig, what I want to ask you about too was as I mentioned, the rankings that were in the magazines.
Yes.
Was it like a team of writers and wrestling personalities, or Did you have a part in some of those
Yeah,
rankings?
it was the rankings were a group effort. So typically on a Friday, right? We would have, we'd all be sitting around the office doing our work, and at some point in the day, someone would scream. Usually, Stu Sachs would scream out headlines, and so we'd all roll our chairs around in a circle. So you'd have myself, Bill. If Dan was there, he'd join in. I'm trying to think who else was there at the time. Dave Rosenbaum, all the writers, Stu, Bill's photographer assistant, whoever was involved in the wrestling side of the magazines, we'd all gather in a circle, and we would do Bill would have his sets of photos of different matches for the next magazine. We look at the photos, we come up with headlines for the stories, and part of that headline session process was coming up with the ratings for the magazine that we were working on. So we would sit around and who's most hated, and we discuss it, talk it out, and that's sort of how the ratings were. It was really sort of a group input. A lot of it was kind of obvious based on whatever angles were going on at the time, but it was also tough because, we would produce a magazine today and it wouldn't hit the newsstands until about 2 months from today. So we also sort of tried to bake in that factor as much as we could. I can't think of a specific example, but generally speaking, if there was a wrestler who today is very obviously the most hated guy in the business, but we knew that something was going to happen. He was going to leave the territory, or maybe he was going to turn next week or something like that. You couldn't leave him that way because 2 months from now, he's not going to be the most hated. So you'd have to factor those things in as well. But yeah, it was absolutely a group effort.
Did you ever get any feedback from fans, any hate mail for the rankings? Why'd you have this guy here? Or why was this guy ranked here?
Oh, yeah.
Like
We'd always get letters, and occasionally Bill would get the phone calls from the wrestlers themselves.
Oh, wow.
Because that was his job, right? He was the liaison between the magazine company and the business. So, if there was any flack to be thrown, it would be thrown Bill's way.
Now, see, that's where a situation like if I'm Andre the Giant or like Big John Studd, somebody huge in the ranking I don't care for, I'm showing up at the door and like intimidating you guys. You know what I mean?
I think that's why we had a box 48 address in the magazines. They couldn't.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Right.
Well, Craig, we certainly appreciate you, man. We have so much we can ask, but we could keep you on for hours, and talk wrestling.
I could talk about this stuff for hours.
We love it, man.
So can I, right, guys? And my DVD collection, Craig, is through the roof. I go back to 1980.
Wow. Yeah, Chris is our resident historian here. Absolutely.
Yeah, I have a huge fondness for the 81 to 83, 84 time. Sort of before. Yeah, well, wrestling was still very kayfabe. It was still, it wasn't as sort of polished and shiny as it is today. It was very rough around the edges, and you could look at tapes from the territories and
like that pre-WrestleMania.
There was just a flavor to those days that I don't think can ever be reclaimed.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the WWE Network to put all those shows on. I don't know why they're sitting on all those shows like Championship Wrestling and All-Star Wrestling there from Hamburg, the Fairgrounds in Allentown.
I know. It's just so much fun stuff in there.
Yeah, and
just to see even the stars that maybe nobody heard of, but also the guys who became huge stars in their formative days. I mean, just fascinating stuff.
Chris Kanyon became King Kong Bundy.
That's right.
Wow. Didn't know that. See, there you go. There's a history lesson from Chris. We usually get a few per show, which is awesome.
There you go.
It's all right here.
That's right, man. The human
vault.
And
I mentioned Springsteen earlier, right? Bam Bam Bigelow from Asbury Park.
That's right.
Russia Yurkov.
That's right.
Yeah. Pro wrestling
and one of the greatest tattoos in all of wrestling, right? With the flames on the head.
Oh man,
on the head, yes.
Yeah, makes you wonder, man. That had to hurt,
That probably did. Yeah, I have a couple of tattoos, but yeah, on the head, that had to be a rough one.
Oh,
All right. Well, Craig, we thank you, Mr. Craig Peters. We thank you so much for joining us on the Falls Count Anywhere podcast today to talk some classic wrestling, a little bit about your background. We thoroughly enjoyed it, man. We would love to have you back again and talk some wrestling. There's so much more we would love to ask. We know your time is sensitive, but again, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today, sir.
My pleasure. Anytime you want to do it, just let me know.
Absolutely,
Thank you,
sir.
sir. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much. All right, Mr. Craig Peters, legendary wrestling, pro wrestling magazine contributor, editor, writer. Just had so much to do with those old wrestling magazines that we grew up with and enjoyed so much. So a special thank you to Mr. Peters for joining us once again. Gentlemen, we're going to check in with our sponsors here, correct? And then we'll come right back. We got some Chic tweets on the way. We're going to open up the Classic Vault, of course, as well, and much more on the way. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
Digits 988 can save a life. If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, 988 provides connection to free confidential support. There is hope. The Lifeline works. For 24/7 confidential support, just call, text, or chat 988.
All right, welcome back, Falls Count Anywhere podcast. Charlie, Chris, and John all here with you, and a special thank you again to Mr. Craig Peters for joining us on today's show for today's interview. Gentlemen, in the world of wrestling, we got the Crown Jewel pay-per-view going on today at noon today, and some big matches lined up. Now, what do you think, man? We got the whole Logan Paul angle going on with Roman Reigns. You know, WWF, WWE, they've always had a knack for bringing in celebrities. Celebrity, I don't know, is Logan Paul a celebrity? I guess he is now, right? How are you guys feeling about that match for the main event as for Crown Jewel? Are you expecting maybe some kind of twist to end up here? There's been some Bray Wyatt rumors. You know, don't forget Roman Reigns defeated Bray Wyatt or pinned Bray Wyatt for the title way back over 700 days ago. Do you think maybe we see some Bray Wyatt interference in that match? I'm guessing we might.
Well, I see on the press conference they had yesterday on YouTube that he brought in his brother to be in his corner. So that's interesting.
That's interesting.
That's right. Yeah, Jake Paul was in Saudi Arabia as well, joining him. So yeah, it should be interesting. You know, they do a pretty good job there with the Saudi Arabia show. It's almost like a international WrestleMania type of feel to it. They get a pretty decent crowd for that. And usually in a huge outdoor stadium. They're blowing off fireworks. They got pretty big matches lined up. So, yeah, we'll see. Again, it starts at noon today. So that's going on now. If you're watching us, you could have us on in the background while you're watching. I don't know, going to dual screen it or something.
Yeah.
Or you can just turn us right off and watch the damn pay-per-view too. That's cool too. We wouldn't be offended.
Right.
But we got that match, of course, going on. The return of Bray Wyatt, which has been kind of building up to something happening. We've been seeing some creepy looking video interruptions during his interviews. There's been Uncle Howdy has been one guy that's been rumored to be making. I don't know if this is going to be a personality of Bray Wyatt or if this is going to be an actual separate person that's going to be in this Uncle Howdy mask, which is pretty creepy looking. So interested to see, how the whole Jake Paul, Logan Paul thing turned out with the Bloodline and Roman Reigns. Of course, Paul Heyman in the middle of all that, doing a great job promoting it. So looking forward to that. But that leads me, guys, to checking in with our legendary Iron Sheik tweets, who does mention Logan Paul, and we'll get to him. But Iron Sheik tweets here on the Falls Count Anywhere podcast. This is me, by the way, putting together the graphic on a meme creator. So I hope it, I hope it does its job there. But anyway. Checking in with the Iron Sheik. What do we got there, John? Oh, okay, yes.
Huh.
Fuck the $8. I'm with the Sheik on this. And if you don't know what he's talking about, Elon Musk, he's bought Twitter, and now he's talking about anybody with the blue check mark, including the Sheik there, would be paying $8 a month, I believe it is, going forward. So much for free speech, I guess. So it's $8 speech, according to Elon.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Then I agree with the Sheik. Then that's not right.
No,
Right.
right. It's F the $8. I agree with that.
Good for the Sheik.
But the Sheik had a proposal for Elon Musk. He said that, Bubba, I need to be the head of your security for the Twitter. The Sheik is willing to break the backs of anybody that mouths off to him or acts disrespectful, like Kyrie Irving, for example. He went off on him with the Jews and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the Sheik, he wants to be head of security. He wants to break some backs on Twitter. I'm all for that. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's always on Twitter, and of course, we feature his tweets here because they're so great and funny here. So yeah, I'm for it.
I'm
I think
good.
it could hurt some people still. Absolutely.
Humble them.
That's
Let's
right.
see what we can.
Humble those jabronis. So this is what I'm talking about. Now, this is, I believe this is Jake Paul, who's in the main event tonight. I break his back and make him humble. There's only one Iron Sheik. So, he's got the whole headgear going on like Sheik would wear back in the day. Geographically, I don't know how this works. I know the Sheik is from Iran, and he wore the headdress. This is Saudi Arabia. They wear the headdress. I really don't know how all that works. But I say bring the Sheik back. Let him interrupt the match tonight and humble Jake Paul.
Yeah.
Load up the boot and hit him over the head, cut him wide open.
That's it. Yeah, like the old
Right.
days.
Yeah, no, that was Logan. Is Logan the one fighting, right?
Logan, I believe. Now I'm getting confused. I believe it's
Yeah,
Logan
because
Paul
Jake's the
tonight.
bot. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
That's right.
Jake's
Jake
gonna
Paul's
be
the
in
one
the
that
corner.
just
Boxing people. Yeah. All right. Let's see.
It is
We
Logan
got more.
and of course we had Halloween over the past week. And, it's just some kids here looking like they're having fun. They got to blow up Andre the Giant. You got one dressed as the Ultimate Warrior, the other as the Macho Man. And the Sheik just asked simply, which one of these jabronis should I suplex first? Of course, being the humble Sheik that he is, ready to break some backs and suplex some kids, I guess. But I thought that was pretty funny. But the kids, keeping the spirits of guys like the Macho Man and Andre the Giant and the Ultimate Warrior alive. Kids today dressing up as those characters. I love to see it, man. Like we talked about with Craig Peters, those guys were larger than life to us back then, and it looks like they still are in some ways to the kids today. So that's a cool thing.
Yeah, that's
including
cool.
the Sheik.
Yeah, that's cool, and they must have some parents to assist in that. So
absolutely, man. I believe. I mean, I think it was just for a wrestling event here in Niagara Falls. I know I face painted a couple times, like the Ultimate Warrior. I don't think I ever did the Halloween thing, but I definitely did it for the events back in the day. When you're 12, 13. I didn't have a beard back then.
No, wait a minute.
And
I
the
did.
Sting.
I did
Sting.
too. I had the.
You did the Stinger, right, Chris?
Yes.
I
Sting.
had the Roddy Piper shirt that had the panther on the front.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I had that. No kilt, but that shirt.
No face paint at any point, John?
No. Never any face paint. Robin, did you ever face paint?
Ultimate Warrior.
Ultimate Warrior
Oh,
for
yeah.
Robin.
Yeah, Chris, I believe you did the surfer sting once. The old
Yeah.
school sting with all the colors and everything you used to have. in
Oh,
his
that's
face.
cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
Absolutely, man. So yeah, good to see the today's youth carrying
Yeah.
on the legends of the Ultimate Warrior, the Hulkster, or I'm sorry, the Iron Sheik, Andre the Giant, and the Macho Man. I
That
should
is
say.
cool.
So, yeah, pretty cool stuff. But guys, we're gonna jump into. Are we jumping into the vault right now? Or are we going to the match of the week?
The match of the week you do first.
We'll do that first, and we'll jump into the classic clips. It is our Falls Count Anywhere match of the week. This one I pulled off, and again, I'm just scouring the internet for these random Falls Count Anywhere matches. But this was a Falls Count Anywhere match back in 2002, October 3rd, 2002. It was on SmackDown. It was The Undertaker versus Matt Hardy. Here's The Undertaker as Big Evil. This was before he returned as the Dead Man. He was Big Evil at this point, the Attitude Era, American Badass. Taking it to Matt Hardy here, just beating the snot out of him a little bit. But the thing was, there was interference in this match from good old Brock Lesnar, who was still a young pup back then. He must have been about maybe 21, 22 here. I believe he's my age. I believe he's about 45 now. So that would make him about 25 in this. And I'll tell you what, you could see the guy was an absolute beast, still is an absolute beast. He ended up interfering in the match, and Matt Hardy ended up winning that Falls Count Anywhere match. The pin took place backstage right around where Paul Heyman was standing there after Brock Lesnar just pretty much chokeslammed The Undertaker onto the concrete, and then Matt Hardy took over at that point and got the pinfall. So found that interesting. Again, that's our Falls Count Anywhere match of the week. That was from SmackDown, October 3rd, 2002. And we're going to crack open the wrestling vault here. Go ahead, John. What were you going to say?
No, I always tell you guys, man, that was a terrible time for me and The Undertaker. I just could not. I never liked that.
The American Badass.
Yeah, it always changed my thought. I was so I was very pissed back then. I remember. I just didn't like it. I didn't like
a lot of
that.
People loved it. Yeah,
I know they did. And I just liked the old one. I guess I don't know. Did you guys like it? Were you guys?
No, I'm with you, John. I'm into the Dead Man Undertaker. The hat and the dark eyes and the goth look.
Yeah.
Chris, what about you?
I didn't want to humanize him. I guess I didn't want him to be human or something.
Well, I mean, being a fan of the Undertaker, of course, we all are. Follow him, but yeah, I agree. I'm old school too, so.
Yeah. What do you expect? We're old. Or no, we're not. Right, Chris? We're just, that's a number.
We're middle-aged or some
just
shit.
A number.
Yeah, middle-aged.
But that Undertaker return, it was satisfying when they brought back the Dead Man gimmick.
Yes.
It was WrestleMania 20. Paul Bearer makes his return as well with the urn. And it was phenomenal to witness the return of the Dead Man.
Absolutely. One of the best, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
very cool. But Chris, we're going to open up the classic wrestling vault. Our resident historian here, Christopher DiCarlo, and his wrestling clips that he presents to us each and every week. Chris, go ahead and take it away, man.
Yes, well, each as we do, and I heard you guys take over for me last week. I appreciate also saying that we do not sell them to anybody or anywhere. These are from my personal collection, and we enjoy them on the show here. And John, I believe our first clip is of our guest today.
Decide who they think are the best wrestlers of the year. And
here he is, one of his favorite clips, he was saying, with Precious Paul Ellering back in 1983.
Greg looks the same. Just, the hair's a little seasoned, but he looks the same.
Absolutely.
There he is.
This is what, 1984, you think? What is this right now?
Yeah, this is about probably between 84 and 86.
Did everything change for him after WrestleMania? Like, was there a point where he was no longer involved, or with WWE, or or WWF?
I don't know the whole story there. I mean, that's a good question for him next time. But
next time.
This was, if you watched, I don't know, John, do you remember the old Pro Wrestling This Week shows that were about an hour long? And with Gordon Soley and Joe Pedicino were the hosts. They had different clips from different territories, and they would have this segment every week.
Oh, wow.
But here he is with our friend Brian Ferguson on his podcast, Bumps and Thumps.
Oh, cool. He's what good people. Everyone we've met have just been incredible.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Shout out to Brian Ferguson as well. Happy birthday to him. Celebrated that yesterday, I believe.
Yes, happy birthday to him, and a
You
good
know,
friend of the show.
That part when he brought up the Kaufman Lawler thing was unbelievable to me. What an incredible thing to be a part of, because in my mind that was one of the most in my memory best things I ever seen on TV was when that happened. It just was unreal. The Kaufman thing on Letterman. I mean, that was just. I mean, I guess that was the start of everything, right? Because it isn't long after that. Whatever year that had been, a couple more years, you get the word to settle the score.
82,
Yeah,
that
was
was?
82.
Yeah, it was freaking great. What a thing to do.
And John, I'm telling you, man, if you haven't seen it, and for any wrestling fan that haven't seen it yet, the documentaries are doing it on Vice TV, the Tales from the Territories. If you haven't checked them out yet, if you're a wrestling fan, I encourage you. I mean, now some people are complaining about some inaccuracies. For instance, on the AWA documentary they did, there was some controversy over the whole Mad Dog Vachon opening up the airplane door. There might have been some inaccuracies on that. But as we talk about Lawler and Kaufman, I'll tell you what, that was out of the handful that they've done so far, that's been one of my favorites. Just how they broke down how they approached Andy Kaufman with it, and then how it just worked. You know, how the fans were seeing a Hollywood actor being so insulted that he's being abused by a wrestler, and everybody just bought into it. It was so great.
I wish he was still around. Andy Kaufman was I mean, he was believable in everything he did, I guess. I mean, that was just the most unbelievable thing. And I'm glad that we were all around to see it. I feel bad for those that didn't see that, because it was just unbelievable.
Just a great antagonizer. Andy Kaufman. Just knew how to get under Lawler's skin on camera. It was fantastic.
And then he would play Latka on Taxi.
That's right.
Where you couldn't even understand what he was saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, there was a recent Jerry Seinfeld interview that I listened to where he was talking to Howard Stern, actually, and he was talking about Michael Richards playing that role as Kramer. And he said, you know, nobody else could have played that role, nobody else. And then Howard Stern mentioned, what about somebody like Andy Kaufman? And then a light went off in Jerry Seinfeld's head. He said, you know, I never thought of him, but that's probably the only other guy that could play that role, that physical humor that Andy Kaufman brought, man. So, like I said, if you haven't seen that documentary, check it out. It's so great how, and of course you're getting a first person perspective from Jerry Lawler on that show. He's sitting around with a lot of those guys, Dutch Mantel and the Jarretts and whoever it was a part of those territory days. It's great stuff. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah, those are great shows, and you can also check them out. They put them on YouTube as well, so they're out there. Yeah, they're excellent. Great idea from them. But
produced by The Rock too. Yeah.
As we go here, our second clip. Here we go, guys. We go back to the Japan where we had some different matches. Of course, John, you remember Ricky Steamboat, Jay Youngblood here against the Funk Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
And then here we go, our local guy there, right? The sensational Destroyer, Dick Beyer with Jimmy Snuka as the tag team.
Wow.
We were just talking a little bit about him last week, Dick the Destroyer.
Yep.
And here we go. Here's a classic one in Japan. Bob Backlund and Stan the Lariat Hansen.
Yeah, wow.
I was gonna say, there's no denying Bob Backlund, that wrestling stance that he has. Is ready to.
And here we see, hey, how about this one, guys? Austin Idol and Mil Mascaras.
Wow. Yeah.
This New Japan here, Chris? Say New Japan.
Yeah. And here we go. We had the Road Warriors in Japan making an entrance here. They went all over.
Talking about,
yeah, but I mean.
Yeah, talking about face paint.
And then here's a rare one indeed. Tiger Mask against Ric Flair there.
Wow. Tiger
look
Mask.
at this.
I'm not even sure who that is.
Yeah, he was around early 80s and into WWF around 82. Another masked wrestler, very good.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, just odd matches that you never saw in the United States. They had in Japan there. So that's some great rare.
It's really
footage.
good footage. Yeah.
Especially with the Road Warriors, man. I love seeing those guys. Anything new that I haven't seen from them is always fun to watch.
The other thing
Good
I know, the
brawler.
size of Stan Hansen. Wow, I didn't realize Stan Hansen was that. I for some reason when I was growing up watching him, I never gave him that much respect. Stan Hansen. He was always not a jobber, no way, but it always seemed like he was always on the fringes, right? I don't know.
Playing
with
the
him.
heel to the tilt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
right.
never enough. I don't know. All right, we got one more, Chris.
We got one more. Here we go.
This is a good one.
Here we go,
dude
guys.
chewing
We
gum.
kind of laughed about this. This was the famous Morocco eating a meatball sub while wrestling.
This is this is great.
Oh, that is great. Washing it down with a beverage. That a boy.
Yeah. And then he's going to put the drink cup here, gives the guy a boot, and he puts the cup on the steel post there in the corner. I mean, this was just crazy, phenomenal. And then as you hear McMahon and Patterson saying, have you ever seen this, Pat?
Oh,
That's right.
Never. Don Morocco and Captain Lou. What classic.
who is this guy? I wonder that he's.
Oh, then he gave some more food to Morocco before. Boom.
That might be
1,
Frank
2,
Williams,
and 3. Yeah, I can't tell. I couldn't tell who that was, but
the guy that Piper slaps and hits in the pit.
Magnificent nothing.
Hey, watch
Yeah,
this.
no,
This is
no.
girl.
Oh,
yes, Captain Lou slipped on some
he's
of the
free.
club there.
he played it off.
He slipped on the sandwich.
I've never
Yeah,
seen that. I wonder if Morocco regrets that. I wonder if he had any effects, if he just threw that thing up when he was done.
Chewing on a meatball sub while wrestling. Only back in the 80s.
That poor
Being
jobber.
fed by Captain Lou, man. That's definitely some classic shit right there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That was about 1983 that happened. And I mean, that's famous. You can even check that one out on YouTube. I mean, and just have some laughs with it. But
Unbelievable, man.
yeah, it's
good
great.
stuff, Chris, as usual. Good stuff from the vault there. And of course, guys, we want to transition to our jabroni of the week, if you will, our jobber or enhancement talent of the week here on Falls Count Anywhere podcast. Our jobber of the week this week is Mr. Kenny Johnson. Kenny Johnson, also known as Mad Dog Johnson. He hails out of Jefferson City, Missouri. He had a career record of 0-15. Now, as I was looking at this, he had 15 matches over a 9-year, I guess, I don't know if you want to call it a career, but over a 9-year run with the WWF. He only wrestled in WWF, of course, as the enhancement talent. His first match being against JYD, the Junkyard Dog. That was back in 1988. And then his last match being in 1997 was a loss to the team we've been talking about today, is the Legion of Doom. He teamed up with Steve Rivers, whoever that is. That maybe we'll feature him next week. But he teamed up with Steve Rivers, and they pretty much got destroyed from the Legion of Doom there. But that is our jobber of the week. That is Mr. Kenny Johnson. Again, Mad Dog Johnson out of Jefferson City, Missouri, for this week's enhancement talent here on Falls Count Anywhere podcast.
You know, like I said, the guy who was just going up against Morocco as he ate the sandwich. What a job. I mean, that's like the lowest of the low. I mean, you're just getting, I mean, you know what I mean? That's
You're
it's
getting your
like
ass
top of-
kicked and your opponent's
Morocco's
eating.
mouth.
yeah, salt in the wounds, man. You're getting, I don't know.
Sauce in the wound. Yeah,
Yeah.
Only in classic pro wrestling, right?
that's right, man. That's some funny
Great.
shit, though. I love that he was eating a meatball sandwich. Now, he's
Albano balls.
now Morocco. He's from Hawaii, but he's Italian, though. Correct? I'm assuming Morocco, is that Italian?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
This explains the meatball sub.
He's related to people here in our area.
Yes, he is. I've tried to reach. We were trying to reach out for him to be on the show here, but him being in Hawaii and such a time difference that
5
that
hours.
it's
Yeah.
tough,
Yeah.
very tough. But hopefully someday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd love
we'll
to
do
ask-
any time he wants if he wants to come on. Holy cow, with that.
Yeah. Oh, the history alone, right? All the
Mhm.
territories alone he was in.
100%, man. Yeah, absolutely.
But,
WrestleMania 1, he was a part of as well.
We'd
Yeah.
like to say to everyone out there watching that we fall back tonight
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, the clocks
Fall
go back.
Yep, fall back 1 hour. And also, John, if you want to put up, we'd like to thank our viewers each and every week, like we do here on our home on Facebook, of course, and on Twitter. Our Twitter is at Count Anywhere. And here is our YouTube, the Friends Media Network. It's not just our show here, Falls Count Anywhere, but all of our shows, right, John?
Yep.
And so we appreciate the views and the subscribers on all the platforms that we're on.
Yeah. Let me say something about the Friends Media Network too that we're a part of. You can see anything you want there. I mean, there's politics, there's sports, we got wrestling, we've got everything you could want. And what do we got? Shows Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, Friday. Might be having one here soon on Thursday. We're almost going to fill the whole week up for everyone to enjoy our entertainment.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, because we got some good stuff, man. The spitballing sports podcast you do, John. That's always a good time. And then, of course, the Citizens United that you do as well. And then some other stuff in the works.
Yeah.
Robin's
show, Robin Live, has been getting into a more national type thing. So for people out there that I know Citizens United's a little more local, Robin goes more national and gets more interesting into things than Citizens United would. So yeah, check us all out. Definitely go to that YouTube and like Chris said, and you were saying, and don't forget Facebook, because that's our home.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, if you run across us on Facebook, go ahead and click like on the page, and then
Please.
if you give us a follow on Twitter or YouTube, for those that have subscribed and those that have viewed, we thank you.
By the way, and I just want to remind people out there too, we're always on Twitter. The shows will always be on Twitter. They'll be on there. I mean, it'll bring you to YouTube, but you can just go to Twitter. You don't have to go to YouTube. Go to Twitter. Follow us there, because start paying attention. There's going to be a lot more content up from us, because I was thinking about this, and I know you guys have been saying it. It's time. I got to really. Our Twitter's growing incredibly. Just need to get a little more I need to put more stuff out, not just the show, more things, because we got so much. And please, if you see us on Twitter, you will give us a follow.
Oh yeah, and there's always wrestling to talk about too, as far as we're concerned.
Yes, indeed. 24/7 here at this house, right, guys?
Yep.
Yeah, we know that. Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
And the unrivaled, perhaps by only Vince McMahon himself, DVD collection that Chris DiCarlo has there at his home, man. That I've seen it, and it's pretty impressive. It's just binders and and stacks of DVDs. It's pretty impressive.
There is no one, and Chris, I'll tell you off air, no one is a bigger historian than this guy. I've only known one other person, and it's had to do with like Major League Baseball, football, like that type of stuff. And I'm going to say is Zig Fracassi, who incredible. He's out there. He does stuff for NFL Network and everything. He's just like Chris when it comes to the sports. So, Chris, I'll tell you something else.
We thank you guys. I appreciate that. And but we got to send a shout out to our other friend of the show and a very knowledgeable AWA historian, Mr. George Shire.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. George, talk about a vault of wrestling information, wrestling history. Somebody who we got to get back on the show as well, who would love to speak with again. Because when we get a chance to talk to some of these guys from those days, I feel like we hear a new story or something we never knew, until we get these guys on, or something that just kind of catches our interest. And it's so enjoyable each and every week. So thank you to each and every one of our guests, and hope to have them back. So
right. And a quick shout out to the AWA Unleashed podcast, Chris Tubbs and Mr. Mick Karch. Check them out. They're all on the platforms, and I watch them on YouTube every Tuesday night. And also our friend, Mr. Brian Ferguson, with his Bumps and Thumps on platforms and also on YouTube.
100%. Now, John, you have we are a show of the people, as we like to say each and every week. Do we have any important public health information that we'd like to throw out there?
Yeah, I thought our show, we're coming to the holiday season, and I know it gets tough out there, and I wanted to bring up our mental health phone number, 844-794-3812. That is a number that's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on Christmas. I don't care what day it is. If you feel depressed, if you feel anxieties, Like I say, the holidays coming around gives people depression and stuff for many reasons, whether it's money or just maybe loved ones you lost or something like that. These people, from what I've been told, will talk to you. If you call them at 1 o'clock in the morning, you need to stay on the phone till 6, they'll stay on the phone with you till 6 in the morning. They don't care. They're there all day, every day. Please, 844-794-3812. I guess the one thing you should remember out there, you're never alone, because that number is there and you got people there that want to hear from you. They're hoping you call and would love to get you help or just talk to you. So don't forget about it, please.
Awesome.
That's great.
Awesome information.
And,
there, John.
Also, real quick too, is that also kind of close to the 988 as well, John?
Yeah, the 988 number too, which we have. Let me see if I can, where do I have that? Hold on, let me bring that up to the 988 number now. This number is your suicide crisis lifeline. Now this is, I mean, either one, if you called either number, you're going to get help. But 988 is when, you know, you have suicidal thoughts and you're just really, you know, you're at the end of the line, you feel like, and again, they are here. We talked to someone, my co-host Noel knows somebody who actually called 988 and said the experience was unbelievable. They got help and are doing better. So 988, don't forget it, please. You're never alone. And there's only 3 numbers you need too.
Yep,
Absolutely.
very good.
Absolutely. Great information there, John. Thank you so much for that. Well, gentlemen, as we wrap up here and head into next week, we'll be recapping the Crown Jewel pay-per-view and then some other things coming up here in the month of November, including the Survivor Series, which is going to be taking place this month as well. And I believe AEW's got an event coming up as well. So we got a lot coming up for the month of November, which is awesome. But as we wrap up for the week, you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy Crown Jewel pay-per-view if you're already watching it. And we'll see you back here next week. Gentlemen, have a great weekend. And everybody else, have a great weekend.
Yes, you too. Thank you.